Hey guys, it's Katie, Kyle, and Alana, and we are going to be talking about the Holocaust and what role economic systems and ideologies have in establishing and maintaining power and authority. We will each have our different topics we will be talking about throughout this podcast. Let's start with the Warsaw Ghetto and the Jewish Uprising. The Warsaw Ghetto was made because Hitler blamed the Jewish population for Germany losing World War I. Hitler wanted to exterminate every single Jew in Europe, so he built ghettos throughout Europe as a holding place for Jews. The Warsaw Ghetto was by far the biggest ghetto that the Germans made. At one point, the Warsaw Ghetto held over 395,000 Jews. But then Hitler started to get impatient. He wanted to start the final solution, which meant killing all the Jews. German soldiers started sending Jews to death camps. By 1943, there were only 30,000 Jews left in Warsaw. In mid-1943, the Jews left in Warsaw were frustrated. They didn't understand why they were being treated this way, and they wanted to fight back. So, on April 19, 1943, the remaining Jews in Warsaw banded together and started an uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto against the German soldiers. By the end of the uprising, which ended May 16, 1943, around 56,065 Jews were killed or sent to the death camps. By the end of 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto ceased to exist. Now, we have a guest who is an eyewitness to the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. Please welcome Sarah Levy. Sarah here fought in the uprising and managed to escape to the area inside. Isn't that right, Sarah? Yes, Katie, that is quite right. It was horrible, bodies everywhere, and all you heard was the gunshots continuously going off. By the end, it almost seemed like everybody had been killed, except those who escaped like me. Well, Sarah, how did you escape? Well, I went on the ground, of course, but to go to the area inside, you have to go through the sewers. After that, my friend took me and gave me a new identity. Wow, that's quite a story. Now let's say thank you and goodbye to Sarah Levy. Back to our regular scheduled program. None of this would have happened without Adolf Hitler. During the economic depression, everybody was looking for someone to blame. After Hitler suggested that it was the Jews' fault, everything just got worse over time. This shows how one person or thing can make a big difference.
During the Holocaust, over 11 million people were killed just because their beliefs and cultures disagreed with Hitler's idea of the perfect German race. It's known that 6 million of these victims were Jews, but today you will hear about the other victims first. First, the Soviets. Most of Nazi Germany believed that capitalism and communism were Jewish conspiracies, so the Nazis wanted to rid their territory of all communist and capitalist beliefs in order to get their citizens to believe that fascism was the best system of government, a pure form of government without any bit of influence from the Jews. However, the only way that they thought they could accomplish this was to control their newly conquered communist territories with fear, thus killing anyone they believed were strongly opposed to a fascist government and in favor of a communist one. Second, the Poles. Over 2 million non-Jewish Poles were killed. When Hitler's army first arrived in Poland, they were ordered to kill many intellectuals such as teachers, priests, politicians, etc., and the intellectuals that weren't killed were sent to concentration camps such as Auschwitz. This sent a massive wave of fear throughout the citizens of Poland. Next began a process called Germanization. What happened was that the Nazis expelled Poles from their homes and let ethnic Germans live there instead. This angered many Poles, so they tried to retaliate, but the Germans defeated them easily, killing over 200,000 retaliatory Poles. After Poland was forced into a state of total fear, the Nazis deported at least 1,500,000 Poles to German territory for forced labor. Our final subtopic is the Nuremberg trials. These trials were held from November of 1945 to October of 1946. 5 months after the end of World War II. This meant that Hitler and many of his higher authorities had already committed suicide, so they couldn't be tried. The US, France, England, and the Soviet Union all came together to discuss what should happen to those involved in World War II. 24 of the most influential Nazis, some of the most famous being Erich Rieder and Erwin Göring, were tried for crimes against peace, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and conspiracy. This resulted in half of them being hanged, 3 being found not guilty, and the rest locked up from 10 years to life. There were mixed global responses to this outcome. Most supported the decisions, saying that justice was served because of the negative attention it brought to the situation and making an example of the major Nazi influences. However, some believed that it wasn't enough to kill only the generals, and said that the, quote, silent bystanders should have been punished, and that the people who'd supported Hitler and his ideologies should be taught a lesson along with those who led them.
All of these things contribute to one big event that we call the Holocaust. This all goes back to the question, what role do economic systems and ideologies have in establishing and maintaining power and authority? The Holocaust shows how one person's ideas, in this case Hitler, can make a very big difference in society. These all show how ideologies like this can spread like wildfire in the right factors of society to cause something like World War II.